This is the KUAM Podcast Network, Off the Record, where nothing is. I'm Destiny Cruz-Langus.
I'm Mitsuki Hirayama.
I'm Nevaeh Anderson.
We're just girlies yapping about all things stress. What is it?
Is it normal?
And how do we cope with it?
Let's dive in.
Happy day, everybody. Welcome back to this month's podcast episode of Off the Record. I'm Destiny Cruz-Langus.
I'm Nevaeh.
And I'm Mitsuki Hirayama.
Yay! So we are going to be talking about something really important, something that everybody in the world deals with, unless you're a unicorn and you're one of those lucky people that don't deal with stress. And it is Stress Awareness Month. So let's dive into it, ladies. How do you guys feel about stress? Do you deal with stress well?
Oh, that's a tough question. But that's what we're here to talk about, right? Well, for me personally, how do I deal with stress? I feel like I've never really thought about it before. I mean, before actually doing this podcast. So it gave me a chance to really think about it. But I feel like I don't really have like a proper way of dealing with stress. It just kind of like stacks up and bottles up until, you know, you just have to like scream into the void. But that's what we're here to discuss though. What about you guys? How do you guys deal with stress?
Yeah. I'm same thing with you, Sue, because I think I never truly think too hard about how I deal with stress. So maybe the simple answer is I don't deal with stress. I don't have that process figured out yet. And
we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. How about you, babe?
I feel like back in college, I was not very good at managing or dealing with my stress. I kind of just powered through it.
Yeah.
And didn't really take care of myself as I powered through it. But now I think that I have more time and I'm not always like bogged down by my studies and everything. I think I've been able to like make more time to like spend time with my family to deal with my stress, or to just have me days, go run errands on my own, no music in the car, literally just silent in the car. That helps me deal with stress. Just quiet time and time for myself.
That's a great point. Like when you talk about quietness, because there's a lot of loudness in our lives. And I think in everybody's lives, there's a lot of noise. And I think not noise necessarily in a bad way. It's just, it's so hard when you're prioritizing work and the voices or the voices that come with that you kind of drown out your own. And so, yeah, I think specifically for the work that we do, we're always listening to people, which is, again, a privilege for us. But it is kind of hard to prioritize your needs and your own voice in your head when you're like, I'm hungry, but also we need to finish the mountain of work that we have in front of us, you know?
I really get what you're saying. I feel like especially, I feel like we're all introverts, but I know you and I are real big introverts. So especially being in front of the camera like every day, or just having our voices on the air every day, it's like, I feel like that could be a big stress factor, just like learning to deal with that. And also, I feel like because I'm an introvert, I like what you mentioned about like all the voices, like there's just like, sometimes there's just like overstimulating. And I like to be alone at the end of the day and just like cuddle with my dog and I just need to have my own me time. Yeah. Which is why I truly like, what's the word? Savor the weekend. Yes. I truly live for the weekend because it's like time to be alone. Yes. And then recharge for the work week. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I guess it sounds like we're all on our own journeys of figuring out what dealing with stress and stress management looks like, because we are relatively young, way younger than us. So
the baby and I are not
super old yet, but
you guys aren't even
can't wait to be 30. But I can't wait to be a manunku because I feel like at that point they got it figured out.
This is something we always say.
They have their boundaries set. They know how to deal with the stress factors. And with us, I mean, for the most part, this is our first time in a professional setting, like our big girl job. So we're still trying to figure out what that looks like and what boundaries look like. So I think we always talk about, we like one of the things that we implement that we haven't realized is going on walks together, even if they're short or long.
We love our infusion walks.
We love to walk to infusion, get a bite to eat.
Or we walk to Honey House and we're like, let's get Sunny Angels, let's get little like the collectibles.
The collectibles, yes.
Retail therapy, like that's actually, now that I think about it, retail therapy, that's how I deal with stress sometimes, just buying Sunny Angels. And sometimes LaFuFus, because it's a hit or miss, you know, with Labubu.
Yeah, I hear you.
TMI.
Off the Record is part of the KUAM Podcast Network. Watch more episodes on the KUAM News YouTube channel and listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
That is a great point. But implementing those small things in our work days really helps, and just having the support of women, especially in the workplace, which is beautiful, that predominantly it's women in our workplace, so we understand.
I truly love.
Yeah, so we get what it's like to go through similar experiences, and also being women reporters and anchors, so we understand the struggles that comes with it sometimes. So we're able to lean on each other and support each other, which is a really great thing, I think. Yeah,
Definitely. I mean, it's definitely not easy, but it's something that, because we have each other, as you mentioned, makes us be able to get through the day. And I truly appreciate you guys.
Oh, ditto. I appreciate you guys so much too. I look forward to those small things. I know you guys have heard of triggers, right? Things that always offset, or that can offset feelings of negativity, or it just doesn't put you in the best space. But I just recently learned this thing called a glimmer.
A glimmer?
Yes, so it's the opposite of a trigger. It triggers happiness or gratitude. And so that's
me when I see you guys. All my glimmers.
You guys are my glimmers.
When you guys are on leave, I'm like,
oh, no, literally. If
It's
one
so
of you guys
quiet
are on
in here.
leave, I'm just how am I going to get through the day?
I feel you. I'm just the Holy Trinity is missing. We really do support each other, and when one of us isn't here, I'm just we need each other to kind of just get through the day. But yeah, you guys are one of my glimmers, and glimmers does offset happiness, but it really helps me. I guess that's the answer to stress management for me, or is just gratitude, finding the small things in my day that can help me be a little bit more grateful. So I'm dang, it's such a stressful day. I'm hungry and I have no time for myself. But then when we just go outside and it's warm and the office is so cold, I'm wow, I'm so grateful we do have a cold office, but I'm also grateful to feel the sun. So it's just those small things that can really turn your day around,
Definitely. I love the frosting in the sun.
Burning.
Very grateful for Guam's weather.
Yes. Definitely.
very grateful that King's is right next door.
Yeah.
And we go there all
Our
the
barbecue
time.
breakfast.
Barbecue breakfast at King's. It's our favorite.
Our favorite, our absolute fave. So I don't know. I guess we talked a little bit about
how we deal with
yeah.
stress. I also want to talk about what kind of stress do you guys, or in what situations do you guys get stressed out from?
I think just in terms of working, I think when we have to go cover things where there are bigger crowds and there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people talking and it's just a lot of noise, I think that can stress me out because in working alongside our production teams, I want to make sure that we're getting quality sound and quality video for them to make their job easier so that they don't have to do all that work of isolating the sound and stuff like that. But we have good mics and everything now that make it a lot easier. But those really busy and chaotic events that we have to cover sometimes.
I totally feel you on
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to for example, a press conference. I just recall I felt for the most recent press conference I went to was for GPD. We went to the GPD headquarters, and I just remember being the only woman there. And that's usually the case. I feel when we go to when we cover events, we're usually the sole I guess female reporter there, and it's kind of tough to be in that I guess situation. And sometimes because we are in broadcast, usually we're the ones asking all the questions, I feel and I do feel my heart is racing 90% of the time. My heart is going it's my heartbeat's in my head, and I just I get so anxious and stressed out in those moments. But just I guess the word of the day is kind of to just power through it.
Yeah.
Off the Record is part of the KUAM Podcast Network. Watch more episodes on the KUAM News YouTube channel and listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, ladies. So I do want to ask, what type of stress do you guys deal with in the workplace?
Oh.
I think a big one for me, I am kind of an introvert. I mean, I can like turn on the extrovertedness, but one of the stressors that I've experienced is like when we have to cover things that are certain events that are very chaotic and there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of people talking, like, you know, the inaugurations were happening and it echoes in the Congress building and it was just very loud and you're trying to interview people and make sure that the sound is good, that the visual is good, so that when we get back to the office, it's an easier process to get the story out. But I feel like that's like pretty stressful sometimes or overwhelming.
Yeah, it's very overstimulating. I think we all talk about that too, like sensory, not sensory issues, but just dealing with the the noise, the visuals, just everything can kind of culminate into one big stress ball.
And then having to chase people down in these situations where like other people are also trying to talk to them and you're like, Senator, please.
You just reminded me of something now that you mentioned that, and also the KUAM Congress building. But the governor's State of the Island address, oh my gosh, that was like,
that was a lot. Yeah, you did. You slayed that,
That might have been like the most stressful thing work related wise this year for me. Is just like having to try to like find, like, thankfully Jason was there, like producing for me. He was trying to grab all the senators, but then, like, you know, senators wanted to go home after, so it was kind of hard to get them, and I was just like, I just have to talk because we're live, and if I don't talk, it's gonna be like
dead space.
But yeah, that's like those type of situations, especially like dealing with all that noise, all that chaos, and having to perform live. It's just like, well, quote unquote perform, but trying to like do your job. It's just, I feel like that's like where I get a lot of stress.
It's very high stakes when you think about what it is that we do. And of course, that's not to over prioritize what we do compared to other professions, but I feel like this job has so many stress factors that come with it because we are live a lot of the time. We are asking not the most comfortable questions. And, you know, as women also, that like to put ourselves in the middle of conflict as well is also intimidating, but not that we can't do it. We always can. And we can always overcome it. But it is interesting too, like balancing culture or our culture of being respectful and asking things respectfully, but also having to be very direct, you know, and confrontational. No, it's not always, those things aren't negative. It's just that our job requires us to do that. And so balancing the two is always a struggle, at least for me. Like, how do I ask a question but not come off as disrespectful? Because I always want to be respectful, and I want to give our interviewees the opportunity to, you know, not explain themselves. That's not the right.
But like address
like something, because it is fair for them that to ask, or for us to ask, and for them to have the opportunity to speak to our people.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's stressful for me.
That balancing act of like having to, or not having to, but like you don't want to burn bridges, but at the same time, it's also our job to. It's like, it's a hard way to say it, but like it's true. It's like we're here to keep people accountable when, like, for the community, because sometimes the community don't have a voice. They don't have the same platform that we have to be able to go out there and ask, like, for example, officials questions and stuff. So it's always that balancing act that comes with the stress factor, I feel like. And it is stressful. That is stressful,
but I think we really do, to give ourselves some credit, I think we do. Yeah, we do our best, and I think that we always try to lead with kindness and respect. I don't think you have to compromise either of those things to be a good reporter. So
exactly. I feel like my motto at like the end of the day is just, could I look at myself in the mirror and be okay with what I did today?
Yeah.
That's just like my motto at the end of the day, just keeping that, you know, like ethical balance.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the three of us also do a good job at, you know, we have each other to turn to when we are faced with that fear of like, oh man, I think I might have been too aggressive, or I'm scared that maybe I should have tackled a story at a different way. So just having each other to lean on is also a big stress reliever, and I'm really thankful that we have those support systems in our workplace.
Our glimmers.
Our little glimmers.
Like, there's also like the emotional stress. Like
Yes.
certain situations that we have to go report are like, they can be like scary
Yeah.
or like, you know, it's like a crime scene or there's like a
Yes.
scene of a crash or something really tragic happened and we have to be in that place and then deal, like kind of like disassociate
Yeah.
and just be like, okay, I can't get emotional even though it's really affecting me. And then we get back to the office and then I feel like together we kind of just
Yeah.
can let the
Yeah.
emotions come
Yes.
out.
Like vent to
Yeah.
each other.
Yes.
I do like I rarely blah, blah, blah. I relate to what you just said about like I feel like I sometimes like have like a different persona for work, so I try to like separate like my personal self and my work self just a little bit, because I feel like my personal self, like she's very introverted, and but then my work self is like I like what you said, you just turn on the switch and it's like you're
Yeah.
putting yourself out there, you have to be extroverted and it's just
Yeah.
what the job requires. But I feel like I've learned how to kind of like balance that and put that switch on and off.
Yeah. And
Which
that
is
that in itself is like a stress technique to separate, you know, having boundaries, like Vay was mentioning earlier, having boundaries and setting those boundaries and sticking to them. You know, I think that's something I'm really learning and working on as a girly in my big girly job.
just a girly pop.
Like I'm so used to like when someone asks me to jump, I'll be like, how high? And so I think that, you know, eventually that wears on you. So I'm just like, how can I continue to do the best that I can for myself and for who needs it, but also prioritize my mental health and, you know, my emotional health. And because if those things are compromised, then you can't do your best. So prioritizing ourselves and working through that stress is so important. Yeah.
Off the Record is part of the KUAM Podcast Network. Watch more episodes on the KUAM News YouTube channel and listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So we're talking about boundaries, right? What are some boundaries that you guys think you've put in place to help you?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I feel like what I mentioned earlier is just like having that moral code of just being able to say at the end of the day, would I be able to like look at myself at the end of the day and be okay with how I reported something.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a boundary I set within myself. But are you like asking for like boundaries you set like with other people
or anything like I guess workplace and also
like work-life
Yeah.
balance, kind of.
yeah.
I think one thing, you know, other than the times when we're on call, I think a big like way that I set a boundary between work and my personal life is if I'm not on call, I'm not checking my phone constantly and I'm not keeping my work phone right beside me at all times. I'll check it maybe before I go to bed just in case anybody needs anything, but yeah, taking time away from work and just, you know, being present at home, especially if you're dissociating with things that are going on with work, whatever you're reporting on, or Yeah,
that's very true. And like I said, I'm still learning how to, like, what boundaries look like for me and how to implement them gradually into my life. But, you know, just veering off a little bit from my question, but like, there's also a lot of stress that comes from the job, like emotional stress. So something that I'm still working through is when you're speaking to someone, maybe after a tragedy. It's happened when, like, right after a car accident, I would speak to a victim's loved one, and they would share all these memories about their loved one. And of course, the story is not about us, but we also carry that emotional baggage with us.
We're only human.
Yeah. And I feel selfish a lot of the time when I'm like, man, I feel so sad about this, but it's not about me. But I can't help, like you said, like feel sad about it, and it lingers for a long time. So I'm still really working through how to manage the emotional aspect of, you know, listening and hearing, like being able to hear somebody's pain after something really tragic is really stressful for them but also just as a listener, it's really heavy, you know? So I guess family also really helps, like just even the fact that, again, that we get to talk about it with each other, that alleviates it a bit, you know?
Yeah, I definitely remember like whenever any of us has like an emotional story that we have to do for the day, we would just come back to the office and just kind of like offload it and just talk about it. Talking about it always helps. And you know, sometimes at the end of the day, you kind of like bring that emotion home with you, but then I feel like it's hard not to bring it home with you, but it helps to like talk it out. Am I making sense?
100%.
I'm like losing my train of thought.
100%.
On our broadcast or like on our social media, and you know, people have the news about what's happened. Other people also can relate to the feelings that we had when we were, you know, speaking to these loved ones, and you can share that feeling or those feelings with other people and feel validated, knowing that like you're not the only person affected emotionally by it. So
that is true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Also, that stress factor. It's like before you do the story, during
the
story, when you hear from the loved ones, and then after. So like for today, for example, it just happens to be that I'm covering like the fatal car crashes that happened over the weekend. And right now we're currently, before I'm actually interviewing them. So I haven't interviewed anyone yet, but just knowing that I have to do that story today and that is on my assignments, I feel like there's this like heavy feeling in my heart already. But I know at the end of the day, I'm going to talk to you guys about it. So I know sometimes I call it like trauma dumping, but you know.
We got to do what we got to do though to get through, like powering through. I feel like that's like a buzzword for us right now. Power through. Because sometimes really that's all you can do in the moment is put your head down, do the work, and deal with it later, you know? And I guess that's not the healthiest way, but it's our way, you know? And we're still figuring it out. So I don't think there are any rules. People can always say, yeah. We're just girlies.
We're just girlies.
So I think a big part of stress awareness is being aware that we have stress. So obviously I think we're very aware that, we're pretty aware of the stressors that face us and how to get through it. So just to wrap up today's episode, is there a piece of advice that you guys want to share with our listeners and our viewers out there about how to mitigate or manage your stress?
I feel like for me it would be don't bottle up your stress. I know, like, off the top, I said, like, I kind of, like, don't really have a way to deal with stress, and it just kind of, like, stacks up. But because I do that, I know that's not right. That's not healthy. So don't bottle up your stress. If you have someone to talk to them. And, just let it out. Just let it out sometimes. If you have to scream in your car or just, like, drive to Epal Beach Park or whichever beach you want to go to, just scream into the ocean. Just let it out. Cathartic. Is that a word? Catharsis? Whatever that word is.
Period.
I think the question was how to, like, advice for dealing with stress. Okay, so I think finding activities that help you relieve your stress is really important. Like, everyone always says, work out if you're stressed. That doesn't always work for everybody. I feel like maybe pour more time into maybe, like, your hobbies. Because for me, stress kind of paralyzes me, and I stop doing the things that I love to do, like my hobbies. So maybe, like, you know, when you have time or free time, you can pour time into your hobbies and, like, getting back into the things you love, and that will feed your energy and get you through the working week so that you can power through.
That's the word of the day, power through. Power through.
Find other activities. It doesn't have to be working out. Other activities to calm your mind and bring that adrenaline, your cortisol levels, your adrenaline levels down to a healthy level, and take time for yourself.
I agree. Great advice. And I guess just to piggyback off of you guys, like I mentioned earlier, glimmers. It's not the easiest thing, but the most tangible thing at your fingertips that you can implement is just finding small things. They really don't have to be the biggest, just small things to be grateful for or things to note Like the fact that we're in an air-conditioned room with these beautiful little lights above us and we get to have this great conversation. That's my glimmer of the day. So I know there's stress ahead of me, but I'm already having a great day. So the stress will pass eventually, as all things do. So just remember that. There are things to be grateful for, things to be stressed out about, but it's all going to be okay.
This too shall pass.
Yes, this too shall pass. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Sooks and Bay, and Jen. Shout out to Jen. She's a great stress reliever all the time. Always so joyful and so sweet to all of us, and a great help here, helping to alleviate our stress. Thank you guys so much. Please check in with yourselves. Always make sure that you're okay. We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Off the Record is part of the KUAM Podcast Network. Watch more episodes on the KUAM News YouTube channel and listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.